Welcome to Dr. Jester Rants, and I'm gonna rant about this. From Bound into Comics, Star Wars editor MArciaLucas decimates Kathleen Kennedy, and Jar Abrams over sequel trilogy. Oh well, now this is interesting. I'm just going to read the first bits, and then I'm gonna read the part where she attacks them. Anyway, Star Wars editor MArciaLucas, who worked on the original Star Wars films, The Empire Strikes Back. Jesus Christ. English! And the Return of the Jedi called out Kathleen Kennedy and Jar Abrams for the destruction of the Star Wars franchise. So if anybody who has the right to criticize these morons is definitely MArciaLucas. After all, she worked on this. She knows the story. She knows everything. If the fans aren't enough, at least her voice let it be heard. But then again, she cannot be accused of sexismus or anything like that. Oh, they probably use the old excuse of internalized misogynistic. Well, Lucas, who won the Oscar for the blah 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 blah, in the book, as reported by YouTube Open Airlock Policy, Lucas described the sequel trilogy storyline as terrible. Yeah, that's way of putting it. Anyway, this is what she says. Of course, they actually. No. Here it is. Let's zoom in. Anyway, I like Kathleen Kennedy. I always liked her, says MArciaLucas. She was full of beans. Well, eventually, when I actually eat. 1 second. Eventually, when I eat a lot of beans, I have a tendency to actually fart a lot, to the point that I actually kill everybody around in the room with the stink of my farts. Oh, it gets worse when I eat cabbage. It gets bad. So that means that Kathleen Kennedy did to Star Wars what I do with people around me when I eat a lot of beans. Ooh, chile con carne. Ooh. Anyway. Let's see. Oh, she was really smart and really bright. Really wonderful woman. And I liked her husband, Frank. I liked them a lot. Now that she is running Lucasfilm and making movies, it seems to me that Kathleen Kennedy and Jar Abrams don't have a clue about Star Wars. Yeah, that's one way of putting it. They don't get it. And Jar Abrams is writing these stories, yeah. We can see the disaster they did with Han Solo, Luke. No, those are just the tip of the iceberg. We can even see how Rey Skywalker, yes. Yeah, you can see, but what the fuck were they thinking when they wrote her as a Mary fucking Sue? You have to actually make her go through the steps of training, of growing the character, of learning. Suddenly she's better than Luke without single training? What in the actual fuck? Where was I? Well, right. Writing these stories. When I saw the movie where they killed Han Solo, I was furious. You're not the only one. You're not the only one. In fact, I was so furious that I actually refused to watch the movie. And I consider the Disney trilogies as simple fan fiction that you can actually disregard. And I consider it a waste of my time, of one of those shitty fanfic films that you see sometimes on YouTube with really good special effects, but anything else, disregard. That's exactly what I consider the Disney trilogies. They are useless. Anyway, I was furious when they killed Han Solo. Absolutely, positively, there was no rhyme or reason to it. I thought, you don't get the Jedi story, you don't get the magic of Star Wars, you're getting rid of Han Solo, and then at the end of this last one, The Last Jedi, they have Luke disintegrate. Yeah, when he actually drinks from a titty, warm milk and all that stuff. blue milk actually. They killed Han Solo, they killed Luke Skywalker, and they don't have Princess Leia anymore. And they are spitting out movies every year, and they think it's important to appeal to a woman's audience. So now their main character is this female who's supposed to have Jedi powers. But we don't know how she got Jedi powers or who she is. It sucks. The storyline, terrible, just terrible, awful. I think I'm gonna quote you from now on. The storylines are terrible, just terrible, awful. And she's absolutely correct. It's awful. Like it said, I don't consider those movies canon for me. For me, Star Wars actually died in the I'm gonna quote borderlines here, pre-sequels of that Lucas made. I consider the Star Wars died in there. And then we actually had some of the good games, the Fallen Order, then we actually have the X-Wing TIE Fighter, we have Knights of the Old Republic, which I all consider that to be way more canon than that shit that Disney pooped out. Then there's actually The Mandalorian, which may actually be okay, but after experiencing some of the shit coming out of Disney in regards to Star Wars, I'm trying to get the courage to actually watch that. Eventually I'll get it. I'll get to it, eventually. Anyway, let's go and read the rest. Anyway, George is in his heart and soul a good guy, a talented filmmaker, MArciaLucas says. I wish he would have kept directing other kinds of movies, but when I went to see episode 1, I had a friend who worked at ILM who took me as a guest to a preview. I remember going out to the parking lot, sitting in my car and crying. I cried because I didn't think this was very good. And I thought he had such a rich veined mind, a rich palette to tell stories. He had all those characters, and I thought it was weird that the story was about this little boy who looked like he was 6 years old, but then later on he's supposed to get on with this princess who looked like she was 20 years old. There were things I didn't like about the casting, and things I didn't like about the story, and things I didn't like. It was a lot of eye candy. CG, well, she's right in there, but still, it was a better Star Wars than the Disney trilogy. I was impressed that I was impressed that the prequels had their own identity, and quote, Hamill says, quote, they were criticized because they were exposition heavy and more cerebral. And probably, like he said back in the 1976, they weren't as commercial. It's a darker story, but in the age of social media, people's voices are amplified, and I'm shocked at how brutal they can be. Not just in the case of Star Wars film, but across the board, end quote. Tanzingian recalls. Well, George said to me after episode 1, I didn't even get a nomination for costumes or sets, end quote. And quote continuing, if you look at that picture, whether you like the costumes or not, it was a costume picture and it was a huge sacked picture Hollywood had dumped on George, end quote. Let's finish this before I comment on it. Reunion. I thought it would be fun and I enjoyed it. End quote. Marcia has heard many times that George was the head and she was the heart of Star Wars. But she says that's not accurate. Quote, I wouldn't think so. I definitely made scenes work. I made the end battle work. I definitely had a lot to do with making it work, but I wasn't the writer and I wasn't the director. And I didn't come up with the creative names. Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker, all those names are classics. George came up with all of it using his amazing imagination, end quote. She's right, George Lucas was the heart and soul of the entire Star Wars. The moment they ditched it, it became the shit that we have it today. And the problem is, it's not only it became shit because they ditched George Lucas, but because they actually hired people who doesn't have the soul, the passion, or the love for the franchise. Fine, you don't actually need to have that to get into it, to do your job, at least make your job properly. But they actually hired people who didn't even care to do their job properly. And that, my friends, is exactly the problem we are seeing here. Even the prequels, or the pre-sequels, or the prequels that George Lucas made actually had more soul, more oomph to it than the shit we got from Disney. And Disney pooped out. Wait, what was it? Oh, Solo. The movie is Solo. That thing was also an absolute shit. What the fuck were they thinking? And the problem is they're making Knights of the Old Republic, the remake, reboot, or whatever. And we all know it's going to be shit as well, because they once again done the absolute fucking job of hiring somebody who not only doesn't like the franchise, the stories and everything in there, but is also responsible for shit work, for doing shit stuff. And then you wonder, why aren't you a fan of Star Wars anymore? Why can't you stomach playing Star Wars games anymore? Why does it take for you so much effort to like a Star Wars game? It's because of people like them. It's because of people who destroyed this. Look, I started playing X-Wing. You know, the fun remake-ish on the new engine that they had and that they had for the TIE Fighter on the X-Wing engine. Sorry, I got confused in there. I played it for quite a while. I enjoyed it. The story is actually kind of amazing. The campaign is amazing. The battles and things like that. But it takes me a lot of effort to get into it, because every time I try to play it, I keep thinking of the disaster that Disney made. Not only that, there's the High Republic books that they actually shitting out. Then there's the nonsensical Marvel crap of the comic books. I keep thinking of Geo. That's the other things that keep on ruining those things for me. That's why it gets so damn difficult for me to enjoy it. It's because of all of that. I am sorry, but it's the truth. Disney ruined it. And it makes, for fans, it makes it difficult for them to even enjoy the stuff that was before Disney took over. Because every time we try to touch it, we get the mental image of Disney. It sucks. And Marcia, you're not the only one who has those thoughts. Sure, we even can... I even agree with your statement about the George Lucas prequels. I agree. But even then, they were still better than the shit we got from Disney. Anyway, if you like this type of content, say right here on youtube.com/Jester. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe with the notification bell button if you actually want more of my beautiful files on your screen. Exactly. Ooh, my. Anyway. On that bombshell, have a great fucking night!